Good afternoon. This is about cognitive error in the diagnosis and epitomizing echocardiography case. To err is human, to forgive is divine. As to the magnitude of medical errors, it is here against other causes of death in the United States. And you see the medical error is scored the third status as a cause of death in the United States. The diagnostic error cognitive is 28%. System related is 19, and there is both cognitive and system related, which is 46%. Daniel can be divided into system 1 and system 2. System 1 is fast, automatic, intuitive, and effortless. System 2 is slow, deliberate, analytical, and effortful. System 1 is the system that we usually employ in decision making, even in medical decision making. And because it is fast and it depends on our experience, our feeling, pattern recognition and stuff like that, but it's more prone to error because it takes mental shortcuts in the decision-making process, while system 2 is more of tedious, deliberative, and slow. There are so many biases, and by bias we mean inclination that can lead to error. These are examples of biases that can be expected and actually has taken place in decision making in the medical field. Anchoring bias, availability bias, confirmation, premature closure, self-satisfying bias, hindsight bias, regret bias, and alliterative bias are probably the one I'm gonna shine light upon in this presentation. Alliterative bias is when a radiologist or a diagnostic judgment is influenced by another diagnostician, meaning if there is a report or opinion given by one diagnostician, that's going to influence and cloud your thinking process in some ways as to be misled. So, for example, if an echo reported as an ejection fraction of, let's say, 40% 6 months ago, and now this patient is having a new echo with a normal ejection fraction, you are going to think twice before you report normal ejection fraction, because you are going to be influenced by the last ejection fraction, which was low. So now you tend to say, you know, probably it's not so normal, I will put it as 50. So this is an example of alliterative bias. Anchoring bias you will be looking for what to support this diagnosis in particular, and you disregard what is going to refute this diagnosis. Regret bias refers to overestimating the likelihood of a particular disease because of the undesirability of an adverse outcome from a failure to diagnose that disease. And this is, in a way, is rampant in defensive medicine, because you tend to overdiagnose, especially of serious abnormalities, because you cannot afford to miss to missing these abnormalities. So in echo, for example, you might see some lambent excrescence in the aortic valve, but you shy away from reporting lambent excrescence, and instead you write it in a way as to be taken as possible infective endocarditis as well, because you cannot afford missing this diagnosis or misleading people away from this serious diagnosis. Okay. Satisfaction of search or self-satisfying is observed that the detection rate of a second and third abnormalities after one abnormalities has gonna cloud your search further, or it kind of blinds you to search any further. So you are gonna hook on this one and you are gonna anchor event to believe falsely that they would have predicted the correct outcome. So this is in contrast to the prospective diagnosis. So now you are seeing an echo, you are going to diagnose this prospectively regardless of the outcome of your decision. But if you know the outcome, like if this patient was taken to surgery and they found that there is a mass in the aortic valve, which you failed to report. Now, when we go back to that echo, everybody might see this mass and wonder why or how come we missed it. This is hindsight bias, okay? Because, you know, going retrospectively is easy and everybody is intelligent in retrospect, okay? And hindsight is 2020. Availability bias, this is assessing the probability of an event occurring based on previous situation that have happened. So previous clinical stories, histories, cases is gonna influence your judgment now in an intrusive way. So for example, if a patient has, for example, missed the diagnosis of pulmonary embolism, is gonna be haunted by this diagnosis and might tend to overestimate the occurrence of pulmonary embolism in patient and do over-diagnosis for this particular entity. Okay, so availability bias is how memories are intrusive in decision-making. Now I'm going to discuss with you a patient who is manifesting some of these biases, and I have been involved with this patient quite avidly. So he is a 56-year-old gentleman. He did a metallic aortic valve replacement 4 days ago. Then he suffered hemodynamic deterioration. So the sequence was like this. He initially did transthoracic echo, then TE, then another transthoracic echo, then another TE. This is the transthoracic echo, which is showing a moderate sized precardial effusion and severe LV dysfunction. Moderate sized precardial effusion, and you see the print of the aortic valve metallic prosthesis, which has been interrogated, and it was normal in terms of gradient, and there was no leak. Here again, the LV dysfunction, the RV normal. That is the situation. So we anchored on this LV dysfunction and the moderate precardial effusion, and we think that's enough explanation for the acute hemodynamic deterioration. And we advise to rule out ischemic heart disease and possibly to drain the effusion and that stuff. So significant LV dysfunction. The anchor was on this LV dysfunction. We have LV dysfunction, clearly, we have moderate precordial effusion. So that's what we have. Alliteration bias comes here because we have done this transthoracic echo twice. The same transthoracic echo was done twice because the patient, in intensive care, and echo sometimes is requested on daily basis. So it has been done the second day, and it was reported like copy paste, the same finding. LV dysfunction, severe moderate precordial effusion, normal processes. Okay. Now comes the availability heuristic. Now, the intensivist was not convinced that this LV dysfunction, moderate precordial effusion, is enough. He was looking for some kind of prosthesis malfunction, stuff like that. So he ordered, or he asked for transesophageal echo, and it was rejected by the echocardiologist on call. And I think the echocardiologist on call has fallen prey to the availability heuristic because, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that, the intensivists are requesting it irrationally, and we are exhausting the resources, and you have enough evidence of why this patient is not doing well. The transthoracic echo was enough. So that was availability heuristic. I did the transesophageal echo, and here is the TE. The prosthesis is in the middle. I'm starting to see a flow here. That's the flow between the aorta and the left atrium. You see, aorta and left atrium. And now here, this is the long axis. Sorry for the image quality, wasn't so perfect. This is the prosthesis. This is the aorta, left atrium is up, and this is the flow, which is kind of continuous flow between the aorta and the left atrium. So this is a fistula. Now, probably the LV dysfunction is high output failure due to this fistula. And fistula is a mechanical problem that has to be dealt with it was then, as I said, twice before the TEE, and twice was reported as LV dysfunction, moderate precordial effusion, and no more. So now everybody is seeing this flow, and everybody is wondering how thoracic echo, and even the echo technician, the second time we did transthoracic echo, after we knew the fistula, there was a special focus on this to say satisfying. I was so much glued to the fistula, I forgot to look beyond that. So there was a mass in the tricuspid valve. Not only that, I looked carefully at the aortic valve and I couldn't find anything. But later on, by the way, this is TE done a week after my TE. So it was showing vegetation clearly in the aortic valve. So, but during my study itself, the first TE done, if I take you back, this one here. When I went back and I studied my images, I found a mass. There was vegetation, but I forgot or I didn't see it during the study itself because I was so focused and so blinded to see any further. You know, this was so amazing diagnosis of fistula. So it blinds me to see any further. Or I have seen only kind of offhandedly. I wasn't so focused. But when I went back, or the chance to pick up a second and a third of normality drop significantly. So now this is the vegetation and the fistula. So my takeaway message here is cognitive biases and error are a major problem in medical practice, just like in all other fields. There is growing awareness and focus on cognitive biases and error in all aspects of decision making, and medicine is no exception. And I wish part of our conferences, meeting, and courses and symposium is going to witness discussing kind of cognitive biases and error more frequent. Because, you know, it's not about showing what we can do best. It's about showing what we don't do best. Our defects and our faults are important to be brought on the scene to discuss and learn from our mistake and how we can do the process of metacognition, thinking about the thinking about the cognitive problem. Your premature closure and say satisfying. The first and preceding diagnosis is influential anesthetic. We strive for error-free medicine in a world that is